So The Boys is coming to an end. One of my favourite TV shows with some of the best episodes and moments I've ever seen is being put to rest. And if I'm being honest, I'm in mourning. I loved The Boys so much. It changed how I saw the superhero genre, and it even made me want to read the OG comic. Kinda wish it didn't, but who cares. The Boys is a show that I will dearly miss and rewatch countless of times. But what if there was something else to watch? A spin-off, perhaps? No, not you, Jimmy. Get down. The Boys presents Diabolical.
Fucking Diabolical.
The Boys Diabolical came out in 2022, at probably the height of The Boys' popularity, with Season 3 just over the horizon. But even though it came out at such a prevalent time for The Boys, no one ever really talks about it. People just seem to forget it ever existed. Which, to be fair, that is kind of understandable. Many of the episodes aren't canon to the actual timeline, with only certain events and episodes actually occurring in the real timeline. So why would anyone need to talk about it? It doesn't add all too much to the canon or the experience of watching The Boys, and not to mention, most people just thought it was average. Not in a bad way, nobody actively hates it, but everyone just agreed it's pretty good and left it at that. But like I said, I'm mourning The Boys, and I'm in that denial stage where I need to fill my eyes with more boys.
Fucking Diabolical.
But first, why do they even mind Diabolical? I'm not gonna do the accent the whole time, don't worry. It is fucking boiling. It's such a random route to go down midway through a TV show's run. Well, there's actually a very simple answer. A global pandemic. Since COVID started right after Season 2 aired, filming for Season 3 could begin, and Amazon was probably a bit nervous that their biggest show was going to take a longer break than expected. So they reached out to 8 different animation teams and asked them all to make a single episode around 13 to 15 minutes that's more aligned with the comic run, while also being their own style. They did this so that all the teams could work on it at the same time, and within 10 months, they would have an entire season to put out. And even though it was ignored, Eric Kripke did come out and say that some episodes were canon, making a lot of people give it a watch, and I'm one of them. So today, I am looking at The Boys Diabolical to see whether it's an underrated show, or something that you should leave on your watch list. So let's start with episode 1. So the first episode of Diabolical is a Looney Tunes style short with a plot as old as time. A bumbling fool chasing down a baby who seems to be in danger. But of course, in this episode, the baby has superpowers. She's one of Vort's many experiments, and the scientist who's trying to teach her to control her powers has kind of taken on a father figure for her. But we know Vort. Time is money, and this baby has taken up too much time of both, so they need to get rid of her. So the scientist breaks her out and Vort gives chase. Now, if I'm going to be honest, off the bat, I'd say this is the worst one. Not that it's awful, this episode can be really funny at times. But like I said, it's a plot as old as time, so there's nothing unique besides from a baby killing Vort agents in violent ways. But I do think that the animation kind of helps this be semi-unique. Obviously, Bugs Bunny has never lasered a bloke through the stomach, and the only way you'd see something like that is through a shit YouTube parody. Like, it's if they remade your childhood show into a fucking snuff film. But I'm just not a huge fan. There's also a little boss battle at the end with the baby versus this big brain boy, but just like everything else, he gets blasted. Huh? It's a simple, alright episode that's more just dumb fun than anything else, but it doesn't really hook you to the series instantly. So I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. Now the second episode is something you'd more likely come to expect from a show like this, with it presenting itself with more a generic adult animated TV show, with plenty of actors, writers and directors coming from those adult animated cartoons. I mean, the episode was made by Justin Roiland before all the controversy and shit, which we're not going over today. And he's the co-creator of Rick and Morty, and it's probably why it's written and animated just like it. Now, just like the first, this episode is mostly a simple plot that's more just dumb fun. It features a bunch of teens from Red River taking revenge on their parents after finding out they gave them Compound V. Most of them have shitty powers that have ruined their life, like a giant goblin, a bloke with fiery testicles, and a guy whose power is literally being water. So we all see the kids taking revenge on their parents in their own unique ways, allowing for a lot of humour. But obviously, depending on how you see adult animated comedy shows, kind of indicates how you're going to feel about it. But I do feel the episode shows us how people react to finding out their parents shot them up with drugs as a baby. Both The Boys and Gen V show people clearly expressing how they don't like their fates and don't like really being superheroes, but they don't often do anything about it. So it is quite interesting to see the exact opposite of that, and seeing people take revenge on their parents. Especially since it's coming from the kids who got the worst outcome of Compound V. But in the end, it's covered up with Homelander, and he kills all the kids. And while this wasn't an episode that Eric Kripke called canon, I do think that it could be. Because the Compound V reveal did happen in The Boys, and all the kids died in the end, so it's not like they're going to come back. It's an improvement over the first episode, being pretty funny, but at the same time, I feel like it is going to kind of be dated, because that sort of humour is going to be kind of associated with the 2020s. So I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Now, this next episode is definitely up there. It's one of my favourites, since it's a story that's canon to the boys' comic. People often criticise the comic, but I've always been a bit of a defender of it. It's a bit too edgy, yeah, I'll give it that, but it's got a certain charm to it. I don't know what the fuck I'd call that charm, but it's got it. And I think this is a greater continuation of that, and we slide right back into the boots of the comic. The animation is quite similar to Invincible and other animated shows, clearly wanting it to look like a graphic novel, and also feel like a comic. And I think this is all helped by the writer being Garth Ennis, the original writer of the comics. He does a great job of getting back into the minds of the characters and still making them feel unique to the new interpretation of them in the show. I think a great detail that kind of shows how we've re-entered the world of the comics is how much rage Butcher clearly has for Homelander. And I do like how they've made them all look exactly how they did in the comics, and even include characters that we don't see in the show, but we do in the comic. But anyway, the plot itself is something right out of the comics, with Butcher and Huey aiming to take down an evil soup in gruesome fashion. They aim to take out the Great Wide Wonder, a speedster soup, who killed a bunch of women after...
Took a couple of honours students for, well, I suppose you'd call it a flying fuck.
So they take their revenge by spiking his drugs, and he flies headfirst into another soup and slams into a wall, killing him instantly. It's a great episode, and like I said, it's definitely one of my favourites. I just really like how Garth Ennis got to make another plot in his comic that feels true to it. I think it's a great way to remind people that The Boys was actually a comic at first, because it seems like a lot of people have forgotten that. And I think it might encourage some people to actually pick it up and give it a try. But overall, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Great episode. Now the fourth episode is actually quite deep in its messaging. With most of the other episodes just being dumb fun, this wants to show us the corruption of social media and what it can do to a relationship. It follows the plot of the titular character Boyd and the crush on his neighbour. But unfortunately he's just your average Joe Schmo guy, so he uses the Vault cream that they give him that helps him transform into his peak vision. And boom, he gets the girl. But she also uses the cream and turns into a cat. But they continue to date, fucking furries, and become the new it couple as they call it, being used to promote the Vault cream. But their relationship slowly begins to implode as they spend more time acting as a couple than actually being one. And soon they lose all their followers and no longer are supplied with the Vault cream. So they begin to love each other for who they really are. But this was all a dream.
How much compound fee did you put?
This episode is actually pretty good when you ignore all the furry shit. It has a real message about how often vloggers stop actually liking each other and just begin to keep up the appearance to carry on making money. The animation for this episode also kind of helps to convey that message, with it looking like an art style often associated with French comics, which often have to do with romance. But it's The Boys, so you still gotta have all that gore and shit. It's just a good episode that tried to throw out an actual message. I really like it. 8 out of 10. So the fifth episode starts with...
Guys, maybe we should just go.
Oh no! Okay, to be fair, Awkwafina isn't too bad here. She's actually quite quiet and chill here, so it ain't as bad as some other shit she's been in. Now this is one of the more disliked episodes of Diabolical, and I'll go into why in just a minute. But to me, I did quite enjoy the episode. Like, the animation just really worked, which I didn't expect it to. A kid anime style episode doesn't really feel like it worked for The Boys, but it absolutely does. I think it's because The Boys itself is so ridiculous to begin with that an animation style that also doesn't take itself too seriously just meshes well. Like, even characters we know from the show that we know how they look in real life, they work in this style. I also really like the music in this, which I haven't talked a lot about, but the lo-fi style, it just works for this animation. But the issue that many people have with this episode is the plot. Because while this girl is getting weed, the dealer has some V on him, which she uses and births a piece of shit.
What the?
And from here on, the whole plot is about this girl and her shit friend. I mean, the whole reason that the Deep is here is so that they can have a fight where she can summon shit. It really does feel like the writer of this is like a 10-year-old child who thinks that shit is the funniest thing in the world. And ooh, let's look who the writer is. Everything about this episode is great, but the shit, that brings it down. It's so hard to big this episode up when it's literally revolved around shit. 7 out of 10. Who had the scatterfish? Now this is one of the episodes that Eric Kripke called canon, even though it's based off characters we've only heard about.
Nubian prince.
Now the plot of this episode is that the daughter of two soups is tired of their constant fighting, so she approaches one of their old rivals to fight them and bring them closer. But unfortunately, it brings them too close. Now, if I'm being honest, I have very little to say about this episode compared to the rest. It does give a bit more insight of Vought with how their real life events are set in seasons like a TV show would be.
Fight me!
What? You're not even in our continuity this season, you crazy motherfucker.
It's got nice animation, the voice acting is great, the character designs are really good, but not much else. It's just pretty forgettable, all things considered, with it being the one I often forget the most. But I will applaud the young girl for her voice acting because child acting is normally shit and voice acting is even harder. It's nothing too special, it's just alright. 7 out of 10. This episode is also one of them canon plots, but I'm not really sure how. Like, look at this shit, how is no one in the world talking about this? But this is probably one of the best, and if not, it is the best. The animation for this is also something akin to a Ghibli movie. It's beautiful, while also looking quite quaint and grandiose. It helps tell this beautiful story of love, loss, and grief. So the plot of this episode is that this woman is diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and her husband, who works as a caretaker of a Vought, steals some V to cure her. But from no fault of her own, she kills a bunch of people, until the parasite virus thing leaves her and seems to kill and destroy everything. So she sacrifices her life to destroy it. Now I know what you're going to say, this episode seems a lot like that Huey episode where he tried to cure his dad and he dies. But obviously that's no fault of anyone, they both just had similar ideas, and to be fair, this did come out first. But that doesn't stop it from being any more beautiful, to the fact that I got close to tears while watching it. Hard to imagine that that's in the same series where a girl befriends a shit or a guy has tits on his face. But regardless, this episode is beautiful and really could have been its own movie. And Andy Samberg wrote this, ain't this the guy who fucked the fish? It's just a beautiful work of art. 7 out of 10. So the final episode we have is a somewhat origin story for Homelander, where we see his first save, and yet again, another episode that's canon. They made this obvious by bringing back all the old voice actors for everyone, and they've integrated it perfectly, doing just as good as they do in the actual show. I think a lot of people think that voice acting work is very easy, but it's actually a lot harder since you have to convey emotion in your voice alone without going too overboard, so them doing a different type of acting that's just as good is amazing. So the actual plot of this episode is Homelander has just been brought out of the lab and is finally able to become a superhero. But unlike what we see in the show, Homelander isn't evil, genuinely wanting to do some good. But on his first save, all the hostages and terrorists die in brutal ways. And this really does get to Homelander. It disturbs him, accidentally killing everyone and losing his mind since he doesn't know his true power. And Black Noir, who's been made his handler, sees this, and Homelander obviously assumes he's going to turn him into Vought or someone else and gives chase. But Black Noir tells Homelander that they're all good. We don't get to see what he's actually written down, but Homelander does calm down and says that Noir's actually an alright guy.
You were wrong about Noir.
Was I?
He had a few things to teach me after all.
Like I said, we don't get to see what he said, but we can probably assume it's something like, yeah, this shit happens all the time. It's a great episode, developing more on the plot of the show, and kind of makes us understand why Homelander and Black Noir were such good friends in the earlier seasons. I also do like how we can see that Homelander did once want to do some good, which kind of explains why he does want to do good in the show, but now if he can't do it, he just doesn't really give a shit. This is a great finale in my opinion, because it actually adds something to the boys' timeline in such a short time. 8.5 out of 10. So, what do I think of the show? Is it that underrated gem I was looking for, or is it just something we should forget about? Well, to be honest, I think the show's just pretty good, and I'm going to give it an overall score of 8 out of 10. Like, there's some episodes that are pure art, and then there's others that are just a bit mid. It's something you do kind of have to stick with, as it's clearly for the fans instead of just being its own thing. And I think the episode order is a big reason for it being forgotten. The Looney Tunes episode doesn't hook you instantly, and if anything, I think the third episode with Butcher should have come first. It would have shown fans of the show characters that they already know, even with it being a comic continuation. If you see characters you know, you're more likely to press on with it. But if I'm being honest, if I wasn't aiming to make this video, I probably wouldn't have watched the rest after the first. I do kind of hope that they make a season 2 because I think that's a great way to tell some stories of the boys and show some more origin stories of other characters. But I do think it is going to be its own standalone thing. So rest in peace, The Boys Diabolical. It's not really special, but I do recommend that if you do like The Boys, to give it a go, because you might enjoy it like I did. Or at least just watch the canon episodes, because they do kind of offer a bit more to the story, and also they kind of show off more of the characters from the show that we don't really get to see. But before I go, I just want to thank you all for the support I've seemingly got out of fucking nowhere. I went from having over 50 subs to having over 150, and I couldn't be more grateful. By the way, my season finale predictions is Butcher dies, Homelander dies, it becomes human. Huey and Starlight get away, MM goes to his family, Kimiko lives, but French sacrifices himself for her. The whole 7 dies, Ryan's the only suit left, and Soldier Boy turns into Old Man Logan, just shagging and banging for all eternity. But anyway, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. You fucking cunt.